This is Throwin Down with Jess and Lily.
That makes no sense.
You can be funny and not be offensive.
The same way this is your workspace, this is my workspace too.
It's never just sports.
It's never just sports.
It's never just sports.
You'll be a little smarter, and we'll be a little smarter, and it'll be great. I was close to being right. You know what's interesting?
If you don't agree with this, then just turn us off.
Ooh, all right. On that note,
We're throwing down.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to Throwin Down with Jess and Lily. I'm Lily Caffrey-Levine.
I'm Jess King.
And we did a lot of rambling and talking about our personal lives and different things going on. So on this, what people are calling end of summer, I'm holding on to summer with all of my heart. And with that, we're just going to jump right in. So
I'm over summer.
Oh, disagree. Disagree.
I'm so over it.
Everyone's getting pumpkin coffee. I got like a Starbucks notification. And all the pumpkin fall menus are back, and I was like, nah. I was like, no. Well, I'm not really a pumpkin coffee person either.
We got pumpkin beer on draft at the bar I work at like 3 weeks ago, and that mentally prepared me for the send-off of summer.
I was in the liquor store, and they had all the pumpkin beers out, and I like those better than I like pumpkin coffee. But I'm not a pumpkin coffee person. I'm not like a flavored coffee person. I'll drink anything really. Like, I'll try anything once, but as far as every day, I don't, like, if I'm drinking something throughout the day, I don't want I'm just not a sweet coffee person. So the pumpkin coffee thing isn't really my thing, but it still makes me a little sad when I'm like, oh, you guys are letting go of summer already. First of all, summer doesn't end until September 21st. I'm just putting that out there. It's also going to be like 80 degrees until well into October. So
no, good point. It's really hot out today.
Yeah, and it's Labor Day was yesterday, so everybody's like, oh, bye summer. And I'm like, no! I was like, we're still doing this. The leaves haven't changed yet. Let's everybody foot on the brakes. We're still doing summer for a little bit. Summer was kind of fake, so I'm hanging on to it for as long as I can.
Pause. I'm ready for it to be okay for me to not leave my house anymore when it's
hoodie
winter.
weather, which I do love fall. I want to say I love fall because I'm a huge hoodie person, huge sweatshirt person, huge crew neck sweater person. So I really thrive in that, but I also just love summer. Okay, we're done with this. We're just going to jump right in with some news of the week. That's all. It's not all hilarious. A lot of it is.
There's so much going on.
There's just so much. Okay, I'm going to start with a little anecdote about the first thing we're going to touch on. We're just going to touch on these quickly, run right through them. This morning, went on Twitter and doing some research for the episode today, and Odell Beckham Jr. was trending. And when you click on the trend, all of it is people being like, when Odell wakes up and sees why he's trending. Now, I, as someone that goes to bed at 4 a.m, saw last night that he was listed as the number 2 receiver. And at 3 a.m, people were like, oh, who would have thought Odell would be the second receiver? So I'm thinking, so I wake up in the morning and everyone's like, when you find out why Odell's trending and kind of freaking out. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to call it old news, but that happened last night. And I was like, maybe I was just up really, really late and everybody missed it or whatever. But I thought it was kind of ahead of the game because I was like, yeah, Odell's the second receiver. I mean, we'll talk about it, but whatever. And then, so I texted Jess all on my high horse of I don't know why everybody's freaking out. This has been going on since last night. And then
conveniently, we were both awake at the same time.
That
usually never happens.
I know. I read through the trending tweets about him a little bit more, and that wasn't why he was trending.
He is not the number 2 wide receiver. He just loves the number 2.
Oh!
You know what I mean?
No, that was good. Did you come up with that right now?
Yes, my brain works today.
Wow, that was good. Okay, so I don't really care to get into this topic any further. Other than just, I don't really have any.
Well, it's
I don't
really
have any
good
words.
gossip. So the whole thing,
and we love the sports drama.
All
about the sports
drama. This is
drama.
so funny because
and it's funny because we were both all high and mighty about okay, yeah, he's the second receiver. What of it? And I was like, oh no, that's not.
Here's the only thing I want to address on this is one, it's allegedly right.
Mhm.
And like either way, that's hilarious. Some people are just into weird things. I think that's still super weird.
Yeah, people are
But
into
it's
things.
Odell Beckham. So
Is that even
I don't
legal?
know what I would do.
Feels like it might not be. I don't know.
Know what I would do if I was in this girl's shoes, because like,
Okay, can we talk about DeAndre Hopkins?
okay, so
I don't wanna
also
talk
in
about
other more,
NFL news.
other more comfortable NFL news, DeAndre Hopkins was just offered a large deal of money, and it made him the highest paid non-QB in NFL history. Class.
And his family surprised him at the Zoom press conference, and it was really sweet. And this is, I guess the only kind of thing I have to say about this is that I feel like a lot of sports news the past couple years is so-and-so becomes the highest paid X. And it's like, it like keeps getting higher, and that happened a lot during MLB free agency a few years ago. Manny Machado was the highest paid, and then it was Mike Trout, and it just kept getting higher and higher, which I think is really interesting that athletes are just making so much more money. And it's complicated because athletes obviously should be compensated fairly for their talents.
Where's the limit? Know what I mean?
I don't know. Yeah, I think that's like kind of the next question is like, we keep breaking the record for the highest paid player in whatever league. And is there a ceiling to that limit, I guess, because sports is such a huge business industry. And props to Cardinals fans because you have a good dude around for a long time.
They're rocking.
NBA news is, I don't even know where to.
It's electric.
It's
if
not
you're
even
not
news.
Watching at the NBA playoffs.
Basketball is a different level.
On.
And I don't know what it is, and I would actually love to be able to talk to like a psychologist or somebody like a sports psychologist, somebody no, I'm serious, to kind of inquire about, and maybe we do a whole episode on this, but like what could be the reasons behind the bubble basketball just being like this next level competition? Like, is it us? Like, have we just missed it so much? But it's not, because these games are crazy entertaining. So that's something that's like really interesting to me. I'm like, is it because they're all living together? Is it, I don't know. It could be anything.
I think it's because it's like, they're never off the clock.
Yeah.
And people are getting kicked in the face. Middle fingers are being thrown. People are getting dunked on left and right.
I have never seen so many dunks.
Shots have never been so casual before.
I feel like I see so many casual dunks. Not like they're casual, but it's not like, oh my God, crazy dunk. Like they happen a few times per game. And
as
they're
someone
still
who
just
has
as
not
special.
a good vertical, like that's super impressive. Like I watched these dunks, I'm like, oh, what? You're like superhuman.
I know, it's crazy.
It's super impressive. Put NBA basketball on
all the time. And it's on in the middle of the day too. Congratulations.
And if you don't have a job like Lily or I, that's just
so
anyway.
The NBA is wild. MLB also wild in a different way.
Yes.
Yankees are fill in the blank.
Losers.
Oh.
So nice to
that
say
felt
that
personal.
now.
That felt personal.
It did, because like all these like Yankees Twitter is like, oh, the Yankees suck, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, okay, yeah, like welcome to my world. I'm a Mets fan.
The Mets have also been
kind of stinky.
I'm not gonna talk about the Red Sox. I'm refusing.
It's just
I'm
all a little
declining
stinky.
to comment.
I mean, in other Mets news, Jennifer Lopez actually told the New York
J-Lo,
Post,
my girl. I love
She
J-Lo.
said, it ain't over till it's over. So Jennifer Lopez and A-Rod are still trying to bid on buying the Mets. They put in a $2.35 billion deal. They think that because they're both New Yorkers, they're the best people to take over the team. And I read this in the New York Post article that if they get the team, they promise a World Series within a decade, so 10 years, or they'll donate $100 million to New York charities and stuff. And like, honestly, that's like a win-win,
I think. Like that sounds like textbook definition
It's
of
like
a
kind of
win-win.
hot.
And also when J-Lo's like, what'd she say? I'm not backing down. If
Yeah.
J-Lo ever like looks me in the eye and is like, I'm not backing down, I'm like, okay,
I'll be like,
you can
take everything
I'm like,
I
you can
have,
have it.
queen.
You can have it, J-Lo. Take it. It's all yours. So well, I guess we'll see. I've enjoyed the Mets buying saga. That's been interesting to me.
No, we should like make
especially
like a reality TV show
because
or,
of like the
soap
like the J-Lo A-Rod thing, like the celebrity of it like adds this other level to it.
It's just also like though, like I mean he was on the Yankees, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares?
Whatever.
Anyone but the Wilpons is like fine.
This is like
for
take
me.
them.
Take them.
So other things happening in New York, US Open was this past weekend. And kind of doing some research for today's episode about Serena Williams. She won her 24th Grand Slam title at this tournament. And for people that don't know, Grand Slams in tennis are like the majors in golf. So she wins this title, and I Google Serena Williams to kind of get some information on the match, whole thing. The first three, you can do Google and you can do like all or images or news. And sometimes if you Google something newsworthy, the news things just come up automatically. And it gives you 3 hits. And the first 3 hits were, the first 2 were Serena Williams' interaction with her daughter was super sweet. The second one was like, see this moment between Serena Williams and her daughter at the US Open. And then the third one was finally what I was looking for, where more information about the match, about her title. And the article noted in the headline, Serena Williams wins title, 3 mothers. In the title, it was like 3 mothers something, like 3 mothers make it to the finals. And I just found it very interesting, and don't come at me. Being a mother is like an insanely hard job. It is like one of the strongest and like most dedicated things that I think human beings are capable of and can do, like being a mother or raising a child. However, no one, not a single person, and I'm telling you, if we are talking about a man, doesn't matter what sport, if a man wins his X title or major, the first 3 headlines aren't going to be about his interactions with his kids, and I'm telling you that right now. And I think for me, it's frustrating because I saw a tweet this weekend that was like, stop calling Serena Williams the greatest tennis player of all time. She is the greatest athlete of all time. And I would totally endorse that sentiment. So it's just very frustrating to me when I'm trying to like do a little research on Serena Williams, her titles, her current titles, her past titles, all of that. And the first 3 things that come up are like, here's a cute video of her and her daughter. Don't get me wrong. The video of her and her daughter and her husband holding her daughter and her waving, like I did really love that. It was super sweet because you see the video and the daughter waves, and then Serena waves and she's taking a sip of water, and then she like sees the daughter waving and like is like so excitedly waving, like she's like kind of like giddy, and it's so sweet. It's a really sweet interaction. But also, she won her 24th Grand Slam title. So I feel like it's not Serena Williams, while winning her 4th Grand Slam title, has cute interaction with her daughter. It's Serena Williams won her 24th Grand Slam title. End of headline. And if you want to, in the article, include like, here's this other cute thing that happened, but that's not the headline. Her being a mother isn't the headline. It's her being an athlete, and it's her winning this title. And it's just, and it's a complicated thing because I don't want to take away from the fact that she's a mother, because she played pregnant and it was like the most insane athletic performance of all time. And it was done by a pregnant woman, which is just crazy because I don't even, when I like being pregnant seems like the most difficult thing in the world. And then playing tennis also seems extremely difficult. So I cannot even fathom how
2 things I would not like to do.
2 things I think I would, the 2 things I think are very difficult being done at the same time.
My head out.
And so I think that it's just like, it's just so classic that like the top 2 headlines are like, oh, woman has cute interaction with her daughter, which is sweet, but like, that's not a headline. They teach you in journalism school. They're like, is it news? You have to answer the question, is it news? So and they give you examples, they're like, player talks to other player about upcoming game, not news. Like that's just not news. It's not important. It's not important, but just because something's important doesn't mean it's news. And it's just, I keep just repeating the same thing here, but when does Serena Williams just get to be recognized as Serena Williams, phenomenal athlete? It just, I just don't know.
And
she's a mother, but also, like, let's focus on, it shouldn't be the number one headline. It just shouldn't. Yeah. The top 3 headlines shouldn't be about mother and daughter, because the interaction that happened between Serena Williams and her daughter is something that could happen between my mom and me, your mom and you. It's not news. It's cute, but you would just never.
The only reason it's news is because she's a phenomenal athlete.
Exactly. And the thing, and it's, if we want to talk about athletes having adorable interactions with their kids, let's do it. But let's do it for male and female athletes. Let's not just do it for female athletes, because people talked about Mike Trout being a dad for like 2 days, and then it was over. And
I feel like we've been talking about Serena Williams being a mother for a very
forever. And it's, again, I know I said it's complicated because I don't want people to think I don't think it's important or like strong or whatever that she's a mother, but it's just cannot be the most important headline when she wins a Grand Slam title.
Well, and the other thing that connects kind of all of this together was that in 2018 at the US Open, she was severely criticized for speaking out against umpire Carlos Ramos, for she like broke her racket, called him out for taking points away for her for no reason. And we just see this with male athletes a lot, you know, speaking out against refs, looking for clarification on a call that they made. And like the world kind of didn't agree with Serena Williams back then. I mean, that wasn't as clear cut, I think, as the Djokovic case that happened the other day. But again, like, how come when a male abruptly speaks out against something, it's him being passionate about his profession, but when she does it, she's viewed as crazy, kind of.
She's angry and she's disgruntled.
Food for thought for the listener.
And I just want to, I want to be really clear in case I wasn't before. And I know I keep trying to like guard myself here, because I do think that her being a mother is absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. But my issue is that the first 2 headlines mention Serena Williams has cute moment with her daughter at US Open, with no mention of her winning the title. It is not mentioned. Right. If you did not follow tennis, if you did not follow sports, you would not know. You would not know she won a Grand Slam. And if you didn't click on
that link and read it, you wouldn't have known that.
You wouldn't have known,
Not a lot of people will go that far.
As we know, people don't actually read the whole article. They just read the headline. And it's 3 headlines in that you find out that she wins a Grand Slam title and a comeback win. And it's also listed as like, and 3 mothers make it to the finals, as if they're saying that it's like, it's rare for mothers to make it to the finals, when it's not. It's not. Serena Williams is the greatest athlete of all time, and she did it while being freaking pregnant. And I think it's just very frustrating that it just doesn't feel like maybe it's all in the wording. Is that the thing? It's like, maybe if you change it to,
well, that's my
while
problem
winning,
with it too, though. Like, you would expect, as somebody who studied sports communications and wants a professional career in that industry, it's a little disheartening to see that a lot of journalists don't see that and realize how important their words are. And for someone like Stephen A. Smith, he thought that it was disgusting what happened to Djokovic, but he thought Serena Williams was so wrong, whatever. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's fine. But Stephen A. Smith, you are one of the key faces of this industry.
The most influential people in the media.
Exactly. You are a leader. You're an influence. You're a role model. Like, please, as a young woman in this industry, if Stephen A. Smith is ever listening to this, can you just please take a little bit more responsibility in what people think of what things that you say? Like the way you just said, Lily, like, it's the wording. I get what they're trying to do with their CEO, whatever the hell their intentions are, but your wording is
It matters.
is misconstruing the way that people are putting your priorities out there. Like, they're obviously thinking, like, you think that they're prioritizing her being a mother over her being an athlete or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And maybe
like,
you're not, but that's how it reads.
Exactly. And Stephen A. Smith, like, regardless, don't just straight up call her wrong. Like, Stephen A., I've listened to the guy. Like, he defends people who do this all the time. He's a player's guy, not a ref's guy. So how come he can't be
a player's guy for Serena?
I don't get it. I actually kind of was shocked when he was so critical of her when this happened in 2018, because, like, dude, what? She's a killer athlete. She's passionate about what she's doing. And this is the US Open. This isn't like she wants to win a fucking Grand Slam. Like, I didn't understand it. That's how this situation that happened with Djokovic kind of reflects on the difference between female athletes and male athletes and how they're covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever the public views is different, but for people in the sports media industry and people who are trained and paid to cover these sports and inform the public of things that they didn't know before doing their job, I would like to see people take a little bit more care with the words that they use when they cover these sports.
Yeah, and I think just like as closing remarks, awesome Serena Williams is a mother. It's awesome her daughter and husband are supporting her. However, let's not let that be the only story. Let's also take her athletic accomplishments into consideration in their own light with her as an athlete. And I guess my point here, the large point I'm trying to make is that cover male and female athletes the same. So if you're going to talk about, all people are going to talk about Serena Williams and her daughter at the US Open because it's cute, then do that with male athletes too. And people don't do that. They just don't. And I think the other thing is that like representation does matter. Serena Williams is this huge role model for like girls who want to play sports, who want to cover sports, all of that. And so don't limit her accomplishments just to her being a mother. Let her be the greatest athlete of all time. Also let her be a mother. But don't limit her like that.
And I think that they should have let Djokovic keep playing. The call was kind of a scam.
And going back to that.
And we're full circle now. So we mentioned the exit of summer, which means the entrance of NFL football.
It's happening.
And fantasy draft season. So I did a draft last night with a couple of my friends for fantasy football.
I drafted on Sunday. And I have a few more.
Let's talk a little fantasy. What we're not going to do for you guys as just an FYI, not going to give you my top picks. I don't care about power rankings. I kind of just want to talk about the importance of fantasy football and fantasy sports to you, Lily. Like, why do you do it?
Okay. I think this is a really, like you said, no one cares who our top wide receivers are. They just don't, because there's 1,000.
Because they're going to say we're just chicks anyway. So
yeah. So, and also you can get that from 1,000 other podcasts. And I think at this point when people, like when you're just, everyone just keeps reiterating, draft Christian McCaffrey. And you're like, okay.
Yahoo tells me that
fine.
too.
And it's just kind of like, to me, it's like, you can kind of get them in a few places. And I think beyond that, everybody's just kind of reiterating the same thing, which is important, but it's kind of the same thing. So we're not going to do that. But we're going to talk about, like just asked you, why is it important to me? The culture of it. Because fantasy has like almost quite literally taken over the world. Fantasy is important to me, ? I am not a huge fantasy person. So when you ask like why it's important to me, there isn't some answer that I have or like, oh, it's
so it's not important to you, but why do you do it?
So yeah,
you know?
So that's like kind of what I'm getting at is that like, it's not something that I do not spend my summer doing mock drafts and like waiting for the season to start. I like doing it. I think fantasy is really fun. And I think it is a good way to like have this kind of friendly competition with your friends. For me, I really like it because I think it makes me a much better active listener to games that I would not typically be watching. Or not watching, but games that I would typically be paying active attention to. And so I think this goes for a lot of people, but it drags me into games that weren't necessarily games that I was super intent on watching, and it makes me watch a lot closer. And I think that that's really fun because you get to see a lot of different talent from what your usual team or the teams you watch every week are. And so I think it gives you a much bigger picture of like the NFL and things, which I really like. And then I think it is, again, not for me, but I think it is just like become the culture to the way that like it used to be and still is, that like Sundays people wake up and they start watching football and they do so until 11 p.m. at night. Whether you go to a bar and do that, which you can't this year, or you do it at home, or you invite people over, you go to a friend's house, whatever, it is just like, it has become such a part of people's lives. And I think now it's become an even bigger, that's obviously still a part of people's lives, but I think the fantasy thing is just like this whole other level where, like myself, I think it brings interest to games that people typically wouldn't be interested in because it's not their team. And so it brings people into those kind of things. And I don't know, I think it's
a great way for people to bond.
Yeah, and I think, so there's so many things about fantasy. So Jess, why do you do fantasy? Now I want to know your answer.
Well, I don't really like doing fantasy.
We do get dragged into it, I think.
Here's my thing. I don't like it for the same reason why I don't like betting on sports is because the reason I fell in love with sport and like studying this, yes, I'm a fan, but I love studying this a lot, is because everything about sports is so unexpected. It's crazy. You know, athletes can get injured in a day. Teams can win. Underdogs are real. Dynasties are critical. And it's just so crazy. And I love that about it. So I don't ever – and actually, some of my favorite games to watch are the games where I'm not cheering for one team and I can just straight up admire the talents and the game quality of the matchup. But when I do fantasy, I just really like to do it because it just gives me a reason to like talk to my friends and, you know, like keep up with it. And you're right. Like it's because it's kind of exhausting.
I don't know if this is you as well.
Though, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't know if this applies to you as well, but we were talking about this earlier, how like I think I'm pretty okay at fantasy. Like I'm very like middle of the pack.
I'm so bad at it, but I'm just not lucky.
It's not, but you know, when people say, and it's not for lack of trying, it completely is for a lack of trying. And that like,
no, I try.
See, I don't. It is just something that like
problem. I never get a good draft pick, and people kind of say that it doesn't really matter, but like I kind of think it does. I'm just so not lucky. You know, it's Are you
blaming your being bad at fantasy on luck?
I am.
Okay. No, that's fair.
I think a lot of it's luck. I think luck has a lot to do with sports, which is why I think everything about it is so unexpected.
So I think that this is where I think fantasy gets like
people
super
are
interesting.
Totally gonna shit on me for that. And look, like,
I think this is where like the psychology.
Try in our fantasy baseball. I didn't.
Oh, I lost my password. I don't get fantasy. To be fair, I do not get fantasy baseball. Fantasy football makes sense to me. Nothing about fantasy baseball makes sense to me. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But let me just say that I think the psychology behind like fantasy football is very interesting because I think there's basically two schools of thought. And I think one of them is carried by people that are not into it and do not care about it. And one of them is carried by people who are super into it. The first one being that you could auto draft and do just as well if you did mock draft upon mock draft upon mock draft before, because you're just going to pick the highest player. And people believe that it doesn't matter, you just pick the highest number of points and you can do well. And then there's people that think that there's a strategy and that you really have to plan out your draft and there's like certain strategies to it and things like that. I don't know that either one of those people or groups of people are 100% right. I think it's a little bit of both because as we know with fantasy football, the best player does not translate to being the best player on your fantasy team. Like Tom Brady has been a notoriously like not like you'd think if you are a casual football fan that follows the NFL as a whole but not fantasy, you would assume that Tom Brady and the success that he have would be like the best pick in fantasy. And I have never, I don't think heard anybody say like Tom Brady's an absolute must pick.
Oh my God. And I asked my friends at brunch the other day, I was like, so are you guys going to pick up like Tom Brady as like a top pick in fantasy football season, and they were like, no, what are you out of your mind? I'm like, I'm just asking you guys where your philosophy comes from on all this. Like, you're it's like I slapped their mother across the face.
They're just like,
because that's the whole thing. I mean, I guess I'd like to say, like, I do research on it, but this is what I was gonna say before. You know, fantasy like playing has been so critical in like the culture today, because I think the emphasis on sports analytics and stats that has like become in the last couple of years, like, plays a huge part in that, because like you just said, the best player on your team isn't necessarily gonna be the best fantasy pick. And I mean, we took one sports analytics class. Like, I understand the importance of it and I value it as like a new way of thinking about sports, but I'm not a big stats girl.
Person, yeah.
So I'm not a big numbers person. That's why I'm a freaking comm major. So I do have to prepare and think about it, I think, more than other people. But for some reason, I just feel like I get screwed every single time. Like, sports and luck, I think, play a role together. I do think that if you practice and work your hardest every day, you're going to be great.
This has been life advice with Jess King.
I don't know. So I am just cursed. I'm cursed.
This feels like a personal thing.
When you said you wanted to talk about this, it was making me sweat. Like,
since Jess is doing like a Jess thing right now, my next we talked about like why we do it. So kind of like the introduction into it. And so like now I kind of want to ask you, like, I don't know, this isn't really one question, but like what the culture of like being in a fantasy league is like. And I think I want to preface this by saying I think there's a few kind of leagues. People would just be in random leagues with strangers. I don't
which
get
is
that.
That's see, that makes no sense to me.
I don't like strangers. And then people will do family leagues, which I'm in a family league. People do stuff with their friends, like their coworkers and stuff. And so I think there's all sorts of really interesting, like
strangers,
like psychological dynamics that go into like fantasy leagues. And I tweeted the other day, total like shameless plug here, that I was like, how your family fantasy league draft goes tells you everything you need to know about how Thanksgiving is going to go that year. Which my family's like really chill about it. Like no one like hates each other because of it. But I will say my family drafted our fantasy league at 10 in the morning on a Sunday, which I don't know why, but it was kind of.
You guys are going to be putting the turkey in the oven at 9 a.m. That's how your Thanksgiving's going to go.
So we were drafting at 10 a.m. and it was a Sunday and I'm 22. So I was obviously asleep at 9:30. And my dad, who's in a few fantasy leagues and takes them very seriously, he comes into my room and wakes me up, but not Liz like, hey, good morning, it's morning. He goes, are you drafting? This is like 9:45. He's like, are you drafting? And I was like, hello? I was like, yeah. And I saw the clock and it was 9:45. And I was like, oh shit, thank you for waking me up. Like I was so psyched, but he was very like intense about it. He's like, are you drafting? As if like it was like almost sarcastic, like obviously.
Like, what are you doing? It's
like it was like obviously I'm drafting. I just wasn't awake. Like
who do you think I am, Dad? Like,
so that was funny to me that I was like, oh, family dynamics. And then I think there's like coworkers, which I think people are a little more chill about it because everyone's just kind of in it.
You don't
to
really
do
know
it
them
thing.
that well.
Yeah, you're not. So it's
trying to break the ice.
And
really.
then you do it with your friends. And I, with my really close friends from high school, we've had a fantasy league for a while. And the first year we did it, it was intense to the point where, and I am not ashamed to admit this, in my high school yearbook, everyone had like a quote and activities and their goal. My goal was to win the fantasy league, and I did the next year.
Oh my God.
Freshman year, I won it.
It's like so serious. See, I don't take a lot of things in my life seriously.
Hey, goal accomplished. At the 5th year reunion, at the 5-year high school reunion, I will have accomplished my goal. The bar was very low, but I did it. So no, but like my friends, we obviously like we're joking and it doesn't actually like hurt our relationships with each other, but we get intense about it. Like we trash talk.
The
like it's
opposite.
fun. You go, yes.
I'm not good at trash talk. I don't like trash talk. And nobody was talking any trash in our fantasy group chat. Someone was like, this isn't even fun. Like we're not even trash talking. Me. doesn't really like confrontation that much anymore. I'm like, no, guys, like, can we all just like be friends and like
You're
make
like,
ourselves and grab a fantasy football team together? Like, yeah, I'm the only girl in our league. Nah, 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 nah. Like, I'm not gonna trash talk my friends over a bunch
It's just
of
not that deep. And
guys'
it
numbers.
is for people.
It's not that deep.
It is for people, and I respect it. But for me, it's just not that deep. If I come in dead last in the if I come in dead last in the fantasy league, the world's gonna keep spinning. I'm gonna be.
But that's why I wasn't even gonna do it with them, because like they're men and they take it very seriously and like they're whatever. That's
interesting.
Fine,
yeah,
it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Fantasy football has been around since 1962. One of the part owners of the Oakland Raiders got together with some friends, and they did the first fantasy football league. It was called, I got this from an article, I think it was on Forbes. They created the GOPPPL, the Greater Oakland Professional Pigskin Prognosticators League. And they would draft players and then basically give points based on their performances. Then obviously, so people have been doing this since 1962. Obviously, in the late 90s with the internet, it kind of got a little bigger, because rather than keeping points manually, like you would kind of have a scorekeeper.
Oh my God!
All of that.
Can you imagine doing fantasy without the internet?
All of that was automated. So it obviously made it bigger, and now I think over like 59 million people. That was in 2017, so it's probably more than that by now. People play fantasy.
Someone a letter for your waiver wire, like
no, that's what I think. That's what people used to do. Yeah.
Whatever.
But so interesting, like anecdote for me and like the old school fantasy. I've always just done like an online snake draft, super straightforward. My dad, this is actually the first year that he has done an online draft, because him and his friends would use it as their kind of like yearly get together, and they would draft in person. So they would have like a board, I think. Right. I don't know. I never saw it, but they would have like a board. For that. Yeah, they would have like a board, and they would manually draft it. And then everything else was online, but the draft was kind of like their initial kickoff. Yeah. We're all going to see each other because we all have different schedules thing. And I always thought that was really cool.
Well, that's what makes it, I think.
Yeah, and so I think that it is a thing, and I think of that situation. It's like, oh, these are people that my dad does not get to see very often because everybody has work and whatever, and they kind of take this one day a year, and they all get together, and they do this really cool kind of like old-timey, like manual in-person draft. And I always thought that was super cool. And then it's like, and now you can be in a league with people you straight up don't know. So I think that for people, it is this like cool personal thing and a way to reconnect with people that they might not typically be connected with. Then people take it really, really seriously, are in 18 leagues. And then there's obviously daily, weekly, like one time per week fantasy. That's like for money, like DraftKings stuff.
Like my concentration does not work that much.
Yeah. So then there's like daily fantasy, which like people make money off of, and people obviously make money, and it's just, there's so many levels to it. It's very interesting.
It's such
a
lucrative business.
And it is completely taken over.
I respect the hustle.
And there's definitely people that are not into football but are into fantasy. Like there has to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the only reason I watch.
Jess, any closing thoughts on fantasy football?
I don't know. I respect the hustle, but like I'll tell you what, right now, in weeks from now, I'm not coming in first place or close to it in my fantasy.
I want to check in and like see, like maybe you are. I think it's like, and I think that's like
I'll give you guys updates. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to forget that I'm in a fantasy football league.
Well, and I think like that's kind of my level of interest in it, is that I do it and I like doing it because it's like fun and it's like
I'm also not in a big money league. Like it was a $50 buy-in, so that's different because like
there's not a lot on the line.
It's the new $20 now. That kind of is like weird for me to say, but whatever. It's not like $200, whatever.
So
we are on to something that I look forward to every week. Last week we skipped the moment of the week. We're gonna do one this time, and be done with that. So
I don't have one, but I'll find one. So you go first.
We can do tweets first.
No. Do moment. You go. You go.
So my moment of the week was Kawhi Leonard's middle finger block, because I watched it and I was like, wow, that was kind of so graceful. And then I saw the replays and I was like, that was his middle finger. And then Twitter confirmed it was in fact his middle finger. And like, Do you see this middle finger?
I
couldn't even kill a bug if it was right in front of me like that with it. Like, I'm weak. But, like, that's kind of impressive. I was actually, like, kind of speechless over something that was so simple.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my moment of the week because it was so badass. Like,
yeah. I found
imagine
one.
someone trying to talk shit to you and it's like, yo, you see this? Beware, kid. Beware.
So that was an awesome moment. I'm really glad you picked that one. So my moment of the week, it's a little more serious, I think, was the moment on College Game Day when Kirk Herbstreit gave us an emotional monologue just about kind of everything going on with racial injustice. And he became very emotional. And the thing that was, everyone was talking about it, but the thing that was really not hit home, but the thing that I found really powerful is watching Maria Taylor's reaction. The way she was reacting to his words. Obviously, Kirk Herbstreit was very emotional himself. And it was very moving to hear him just speak with a kind of sense of like a plea for everybody to be better, but also in such a frustrated manner that like it felt very like we just have to do better. And it almost felt like he was very frustrated. And I think that's why it was very powerful. It wasn't just saying, hey, we need to be better, but like, you could really feel the emotional frustration he felt about it. And then more so Maria Taylor's reaction. She reacted very emotionally as well. And I think that was just very powerful and a big moment of like, we're doing this, we're doing the sports, we're doing the sports, we're doing the NBA, we're doing college football, but let's not lose sight of the really important things that are going on. So that was mine.
And broadcasts can be so powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, everybody's talking about it. So I think that making points like that is important. Tweet of the week, Jess. I have a good one that I am very excited about.
Ooh, you go first.
Okay.
That made me excited.
Excited for Yankees fans. So this is last night, or yesterday after the Yankees happened.
I love making fun of Yankees
Excited
fans.
for Yankees fans to discover baseball's true purpose, feeling sad in a low stakes way. Which you and I, everyone's gonna like be mad at me.
Oh my God,
like,
don't even put yourself in the same category as me.
Okay, I know. Everyone's going to be mad at me like, oh, you're a Red Sox fan, you never get it. But like, the Red Sox have had some sad freaking moments, okay? And I'm not saying that it's worse than being a Mets fan. I will not take that away from you. But I'm just saying there's been some really frustrating times as a Red Sox fan. And being sad in a low stakes way sums it up beautifully.
Fair.
Okay. Just tweet of the week,
go.
go.
All about all of baseball.
Just tweet of the week before I keep talking.
Professor Sarah Parkak at Indy from Space.
Oh, that was Meg Rowley, by the way, who said that. I want to give her credit.
Oh, on your Twitter? Yes.
Yeah.
So, this is a funny one. Instead of blowing up things for a gender reveal party, the parents to be should hand out wallets. If there's $1 inside, it's a boy. If there's 72 cents, it's a girl.
If you're watching the video of this, you saw my ecstatic reaction to that.
Which you guys should all be watching the video.
Yeah, watch it. It's funny. I talk with my hands a lot.
And we're pretty.
Jess, let me just tell you about the personal story behind that tweet.
Yeah, I think you like this, and that's why I came up with that thing.
So I don't know why I didn't think of using that, because so basically my mom read that tweet to me out loud on like whatever it was, Sunday morning or Monday morning or whatever. She read it to me out loud. She's like, oh my gosh, did you see this? And it's like, that's hilarious and freaking fantastic. Like 4 people throughout the day proceeded to send this to me and was like, this seems so you, like this is so up your alley. Someone goes, I read this in your voice. And I was like, there's something really fun about when like groups of people that don't know, or like people that don't know each other, but know you, like all send you the same thing. You're like, wow, this is really how people see me, isn't it?
It's a total Lily joke. Like,
no, it totally is. And I think gender reveal parties are fucking stupid. Let me just say, if I offended anybody with that, okay.
Bye.
But like gender reveal parties are so fucking stupid. And two of them have caused major wildfires now, which is a huge issue.
I can't believe these guys.
But I'm also thinking like, I'm just generally like, I mean, stop trying to like enforce these gender stereotypes on your children. Well, like, starting before they're born. Like people are just so into it. They're like, people are like, they're gonna blow shit up, and if when they blow shit up, it's blue. They're like we are painting our house blue. Everything we own is blue now. There will not be an ounce of pink in this house. We only own blue objects now.
Actually,
I'm like, whoa!
I read the sonogram wrong. That was just a piece of dust on it.
I know.
You're actually having a girl.
Having a girl.
And they're like, I can't return 10
And
tons
then
of
if it's a
paint.
girl, they're like, we are putting glitter on every surface in our house. There will be a bow on every piece of furniture we own. And I'm just like,
She has no hair.
I'm like,
Super glue that pink bow onto her
guys.
head.
I'm like, hey, everybody. Anybody ever heard of the color yellow? Love yellow. So fun.
Cool.
Great color. Green, awesome color.
Awesome.
Stop it with the blue and pink bullshit. I'm over it. I'm wearing blue and pink right now because fuck gender stereotypes. And I'm just so over it. Like, I'm sorry, touchdowns or tutus. Give me a fucking break, all right? Fuck off. No, enough. I have had enough of the harsh gender stereotypes, and now they're causing wildfires. So I'm red in the face over this, but I think it's so stop. Listen, I know people
are not at the fire.
Let your daughter like football and not make a thing of it. Be like, oh, well, she actually really likes football. No, she likes football. It's something she likes. What I'm trying to think of something I like. Right now, nothing. Right now, nothing. No, not even right now. Don't like anything right now. Like, oh, your son really likes. I can't even think straight. Your son really likes singing. Cool. Great. Let kids like
Good
things.
for him.
Don't make a big deal of it. Yeah. I did ballet with boys, and guess what? They were nice and like well behaved and respectful.
Male cheerleaders, they probably have a better shot.
And good people to be around. They're like good, nice people to be around because they're not put in these boxes. And okay, I'm done.
We hate gender reveal parties. That's all you gotta get from that.
It's like they're one thing and now they're starting wildfires. So I just feel like we as a society, I don't want to do the joke of like we as a society have surpassed the need for gender reveal parties. We should have never had them in the first place. They weren't, by the way,
we need to stop making stupid things to capitalize and make money off of and just stop having parties for no reason.
We already have Valentine's Day. Is that not enough for you people?
Exactly.
No,
what more do you want from us?
We didn't have gender reveal parties. Our parents were just like, it's a child. And they're like, cool. And that was the end of it.
Exactly.
My room as a baby was purple and yellow. And guess what?
I rest my case.
My favorite color is purple now. So you can all, okay.
We're done here.
It's
hot. I'm tired.
All right.
I'm angry.
I'm angry.
I'm all hot and bothered.
This has been another, I think, good episode of
Successful.
Throwin Down. Yeah, successful. This has been another episode of Throwin Down with Jess and Lily. I'm Lily Caffrey Levine. And
I'm Jess King.
And follow us on social media at throwinnog_down. And
it's never just sports.
We will see you next time. Have a good one.